tap the mic.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you all for being here this evening. We have a small crowd, but this is really an important opportunity for us as board trustees to be able to come out and talk to the communities who elected us regarding the process for the selection of our next superintendent. My name is Al Velarde. I am the representative for the Burges and Jefferson feeder patterns, and I'm the board president. So this is something that for all of us board members that are sitting right now, none of us have done this. And so all of us are learning through this entire process. And really, at the end of the day, what we are all interested in, I can share for everybody, is what we want to do is we want to get this right. We want to make sure that we get the right person to lead the Paso Independent School District as we move forward with educating our students. So I do have a PowerPoint right over here. And so what I'm going to first do is go through this PowerPoint, which is going to share with you what has happened up to now, and this will hopefully answer some questions that you may have as to what's happening, why is it taking so long, whatever you may be thinking. And so we'll go ahead and give you that information, then we'll have an opportunity for questions as we move along. And then I'm going to turn it over to you all and let you all share with me what you all think we should be looking for when we hire the next superintendent for EPISD. So, just again for clarification, this is a listening session. Our role here is to listen to you, our community. We are not here to engage in a community meeting where we're going to talk about everything else. Happy to set something up at a later date, but the focus of this meeting today is really to be able to share with you the superintendent search process and to seek from you your thoughts with respect to what we need to consider when we hire the superintendent. All right, so we'll go to the first slide. Try to get it the right way. Okay. Go back up. Which one there? Make sure, Jason. Okay. Go back to the slide. Okay, now I wanted to go back and make sure I'm on the first slide. Okay, we are. So I had to point it this way. Kind of odd, but I have to point it that way in order to look this way. One too many. It'll take us longer just to go through the slide than what we're anticipating here. Okay, you all hear me just fine with the speaker, correct? Okay. So this is what's happening as of today with the superintendent search. If you all recall, at the very beginning of the year, end of last year, is when Mr. Cabrera, our former superintendent, left EPISD, and then that put us, the new board, in a position to select a. I want to take this off. It's a lot easier. Okay. To select our new superintendent. Now, one thing that is not on this board, but I think is very important to understand. The previous board, the board that was leaving, felt that it was really important that the new board be the board that really pushes the process forward. So the only role that the previous board had really was in the selection of the search firm. But that board did not get involved in any activity with respect to the actual process, because it was really a strong belief by them that it is the responsibility of the new board. The new elections were coming up, and that we were going to have new people on the board, and we knew we had certain people who were going to drop off. And so that's kind of key to understand. I can share that with you because I was a part of that board previous to it, and I know that. I don't know if that's being shared with everybody. But so on March 30th, that's when the board met, and we hired the first search firm, do the word first, I'll explain that in a minute, to go ahead and move forward with this process. The next dates, which are May 17th to June 7th, now we're at the point where the elections are occurring, and now we're moving forward with the actual process. There were 26 virtual community meetings and online surveys conducted by that first search firm. Okay? In August 17th, while working with that search firm, they disclosed to us a potential conflict of interest. And so that conflict of interest was sufficient to the point that we as a board needed to sit down and discuss it. And when we did, the board unanimously felt that we needed to sever the contract with that search firm and bring in another search firm to continue with this process. We needed to deal with that conflict, and that's how we did it. And so that caused a short delay, but the reality is, it didn't cause too big of a delay, because by September 2nd, we were meeting with the new search firm, which is Walsh Gallegos. They are an attorney's firm out of Central Texas, and then they are supported by Dr. Ann Dixon, who does this type of work across the state. And they were hired to continue the search process. And you can see that immediately they went to work. So on September 15th, the Board of Trustees had a planning session with Walsh Gallegos and Dr. Dixon, where we came together. And this is really the first time that we as a board sat down and said, okay, let's chart out our plan for how we're going to proceed. And so that occurred at that board meeting on September 2nd, and within that plan is the schedule that we are now following, and which you will see today when we anticipate we will be concluding this process. Okay? So then on September 16th, the superintendent position was posted. And it was posted on Texas ISD and TASANet, which are the two largest job posting entities in the state of Texas. And we're focusing within the state of Texas, although we know that people from outside of Texas still are going to jump in on those sites because they are so popular. And so the question is, will we see applications coming in from elsewhere across the state? For me, that is a good thing, so that we can take a look at everybody and really measure the best skills and characteristics, and we're not bound by a locality on that. But it is out, and so it is still open as of today. And then one thing, the timing worked well, is there is a very large conference that happens. It's called the TASA-TASB Conference, Texas Association of School Boards and Texas Association of School Administrators. And there's about 6,000 attendees at this conference. It's huge. And so, of the attendees, there are numerous potential applicants who could be interested in EPISD's position. So Walsh Gallegos and Dr. Dixon did have a booth there where they were able to hand out applications, talk to them, give them information about the EPISD position. And so that's where we are up to right now. We go to the next slide. Okay. Did I go 1, 2, 4? Okay, I think this is where we're supposed to be. So as far as the virtual community meetings that have already taken place, and this was conducted by the first search firm, we interviewed online through survey 1,021 people. Of those, 537 were online surveys to community. These are parents, these are people that were interested in responding to that survey. So I think that was a good number of surveys that we were able to capture. And then the other chart that you're seeing is the surveys from our staff within EPISD. And I'm not going to repeat them all, but you can see there that we had several sessions, and these are going to be online virtual sessions with the classification of employee that you're taking a look at, okay? And we got some really good feedback from the staff within EPISD. All right, so going back to that planning session, this is the calendar that we are pursuing. So you can see that we start this calendar with the planning session on September 15th, followed by posting the announcement for the position. Again, September 24th and 25th, we're right here. We were up at TASB, and we were hand-delivering applications to people who may be interested in this position. And then right now, this is where we are right now. Okay, we are doing the community listening sessions. And just so that you know, we are doing these community listening sessions at every high school in the district. I wish we could go out to every school, but we have some like 85 schools and we just can't do it in a 2-week period. So we chose to do it at high schools and let the high schools share with their feeder patterns and invite families, invite people, and then we're public with these invitations to get people to come to the closest high school where they live to hear this session. And this very same session is being presented by the trustee of that high school and that feeder parent. So I'm doing it for Burges, and tomorrow I'll be out of Jefferson because both of those schools are my feeder parent area. Okay, then this is a big meeting. This happens next week. On Tuesday, the board is going to come together, and let me step back. On Thursday, the 28th, the application process closes. We will no longer receive applications. And then next week, on Tuesday, the board is going to meet, and we're going to review all of the applications that have come in. And it's going to be very challenging, but we are going to have to decide who are going to be the applicants that we are going to interview for this position. And my understanding, we might be up in the 40s, number 40s for applicants. EPISD this position has a lot of interest. And so there's a lot of applications that we're going to have to go through. So, and then we're going to have 7 trustees who have to come to consensus on the final 3 to 5 applicants that we are going to sit down with and have interviewed. And then that interview process will take place the next week between November 8th and 10th, when we will select candidates for the final round of interviews. So now we're going to be paring it down probably to 2 candidates, and maybe 3. Okay? But we're going to have the very short list, come out with a very short list after that 2-day period. Then on November 15th and 16th, we will be interviewing them, okay? And we will develop the finalists. It could be 2 again, it may be 1, okay? But at this point, we're pretty much sure who is going to be those people that we're going to do the final interview with. And then it won't be until after this point that we will be able to go public with anything when it comes to candidates, okay? And that's very important to understand, because of all these candidates, you know, many of them are going to be probably superintendents from other districts. They're coming from other districts from across the state, and they want to apply, but they don't want their school districts to know they're applying. So we have to maintain the confidentiality, and that's understood until it gets to the absolute last finals. At which point, there will be a 21-day period, okay, after naming our finalists as to who that selection will be. We will meet on Monday, December 6th or 7th, okay, Monday or Tuesday, 6th or 7th, okay, where we will select the person that we intend to offer the position to, okay? And then, with that said, we will now know, once we come to an agreement, establish a contract, we will now know who the next superintendent for EPISD will be. So our goal is to get that done before the end of the year, and I truly believe that that's going to happen. The big question here is, you see there's a TBD there, to be determined. We don't know yet when the person we select will be able to take the helm of EPISD. And that's simple, because if it's going to be another superintendent from another district or another high-ranking administrative official, they're likely under contract with the district. And if they're under contract with their district, the question is, can they break that contract to come over immediately? Our hope is that they can. And our hope is really that timing is intended that we can have a superintendent seated and in place by the start of the second half of this school year. But We can't promise that because it really does depend on when the person who is selected can be released from a contract, if they're under contract, to come through. So it could be that that superintendent won't come to us until the end of the school year, and they'll be ready to start with us as we prepare for next school year. So that's out there, and that's the reason why. Okay? With that said, it's your turn. And this is where I come to listen to you all. And the question is simple. What would you like to see in the ideal superintendent for EPISD? This meeting is being recorded, so I'll ask you to come up to this microphone and just share with me what you would like to see in the ideal superintendent. Don't be shy. Don't be shy, Ambassador. That's why we're here. And anybody in the room, staff, anybody, this is the time that I get to hear you directly. Patricia, I know you have questions. You have your comment. Come on forward. I would just say your name for the recording.
So my name is Patricia Messiga, and I'm a teacher at Ross and a parent of 4 children who attend the EPISD. I would like to see someone as our new superintendent who has vested interest in El Paso. So somebody from El Paso, I'm not necessarily saying they have to be born here, but somebody who's lived here, who has dedicated themselves to EPISD. Somebody who was a teacher, worked their way up. So I'll just say, I think we already have our superintendent here, but somebody who's from El Paso, who's been everywhere that they were teachers, APs, principals, whatever. Somebody that already has a vested interest in it. We haven't had much success with people coming from out of here. So I think that if we look here, that we can find somebody that we can be.
So an internal selection is what you would like to see in the superintendent.
Can I ask a question about your slide real quick?
Sure.
If you were to hire somebody, let's just say from somewhere else, you all wouldn't be thinking of paying out or buying out their contract.
Really good question. That has not come up in conversation. And I don't know that I could, personally, my response to you is I don't know that I could support that because they could have 3 years left. So it could be an expensive buy. Okay. Sir, you have any questions? You good? Anybody over here who wants to ask something, please feel free. Okay. All right. So, the good news is we've had an opportunity, as I showed you on the slide, that we have received surveys. Patricia, what you shared with us is a common response. Okay, not the only response, but it is a common response, and so our purpose here is to gather these responses to get a good feel of the ideal candidate. Okay. And then when we meet next week, when we start looking at all of the candidates, we are going to review all of the responses that we have received from the different surveys, online surveys, the meetings, online meetings that were had, and then of course the meetings that we're having right now throughout the district. And from that, we'll be able to build and mold the ideal candidate for EPISD. So I'm thankful that you all have come out here and to listen and to understand what is happening in this process. Our belief as a Board of Trustees is we want to be transparent to you, to our community, and share with you those important details that we can of this process and make sure that the community is involved with helping us make this selection. With that said, I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and thank you for being here. Thank you a whole bunch, and I'm available offline right now if you have any other questions. Thanks.